Could a single pilot be the record holder for nighttime kills flying a jet aircraft? To be the greatest jet ace of World War II and also the greatest jet ace in history? Today you will learn the story of Kurt Welter, a not very well-known pilot but with a very interesting biography. This is one of the first war room videos where we're going to talk about German night fighters. Of course, I've already published here the interview I did myself with A.S. Martin Dreves, pilot of the NJG-1 Messerschmitt 110 pilot, which you can watch at this link here. But I also want to tell you about a very unique aircraft, which is the Heinkel 219, the RU, or OWL, which was the first aircraft specifically designed to be a night fighter within the Luftwaffe. This very interesting aircraft, which entered combat in the last months of World War II, also featured an ejection seat and other innovations that make it a unique treasure in aeronautics. And it's also a unique treasure because there's only one preserved example of it, which is currently at the Smithsonian Museum in Washington. And guess what? Only you will be able to see the Heinkel 219 up close, along with the war room. On our Atom mission, which heads to the United States in October, the main goal of the Atom mission is to retell the story of the Manhattan Project and the construction of the atomic bomb for you. And for that, besides the Heinkel 219, we're going to see the Boeing B-29 in Washington. Enola Gay, the main aircraft in the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. It doesn't stop there, because after that, we're going to New Mexico, where I'll take you to visit the city of Los Alamos, which hosted the laboratory of Robert Oppenheimer, where he and his team developed and built the first atomic bomb in history. We're also going to make an exclusive visit to the ground zero of the first atomic bomb at the Trinity Test Site, an exclusive place that's inside a military base and only opens once a year for tourists. And only the War Room will be able to take you inside on this 80th anniversary of the events. There, you'll be able to see the Pinnacle, which is at Ground Zero, and you'll also see the McDonnell Ranch, where the atomic bomb was assembled. The young Kurt Johann Franz Ludwig Welter was born on February 25, 1916, in a suburb called Liedenthal, which is part of the large city of Cologne in northwest Germany. He was the son of Julius Welter and Gertrude Welter. His father was a merchant who traveled a lot around the region, and his family was of young Catholic religious orientation. Welter was born in 1936, important Catholics. Welter was born in the city of Aachen, obtaining his diploma in 1930. The following year, he entered a business school and also got his diploma, then went on to work with his father. In October 1934, Welter completed his Berufsschule, or technical school, and soon after, he joined the ranks of the Landespolizei, or regional police of that Cologne area. The Nazi Party had taken power in the country in January 1933, and in February 1935, Adolf Hitler finally publicly announced the existence of his new air force, the Luftwaffe. Thus, on May 23 of that year, 1935, Kurt Welter, who was 19 years old at the time, began his mandatory military service, along with the new contract for 4.5 years of service, which would already include his time served with the police. The new Air Force was still in its embryonic stage, truly in its initial formation, and Welter then became part of the ground crew at the New Brandenburg base. Promoted to Gefreiter on November 1, 1935, the following year, on September 23, Welter signed a contract for another 12 years of service with the Air Force. And at that point, he ends up being selected for flight training. Between December 1936 and September 1937, Welter began his flight training with Flieger Ersatzabteilung 27, or Flight Training Battalion Number 27, in the city of Halberstadt, and on April 1st, 1937, he is promoted to Unteroffizier, a kind of junior sergeant. In December 1937, he is transferred to Magdeburg after completing his basic training and joins the Flugzeugführerschule AB, which means Aircraft Pilot School. Then, 6 months later, on May 7th, 1938, Kurt Welter completes his training and finally receives his Flugzeugführerabzeichen, Luftwaffe pilot badge, officially becoming a German military aviator. Throughout the following year, Welter undergoes several flight specializations within the Air Force itself and is noted for his particular skill at these various levels, various types of flight. His particular aptitude for teaching is also noted, and while World War II is unleashed on September 1, 1939, with the German invasion of Poland, he is made a flight instructor, training the new generations of Luftwaffe pilots at the Cottbus and Marienbad bases. On August 1, 1940, Kurt Welter is promoted to Feldwebel, or sergeant, and in November of that year, he marries his girlfriend Katharina Emma Green, with whom he would have a son and a daughter in the following years, as a reward for his very diligent work in training new pilots. On May 23, 1941, Kurt Welter is awarded the Kriegsverdienstkreuz Zweite Klasse Mitwerten, that is the War Merit Cross Second Class, with swords, a recognition for bureaucratic work, that is, away from the front line, given to several military personnel and also German civilians during World War II. At that time, the training of new flight crews still largely followed peacetime standards, which was quite lengthy. It was specialized and produced highly skilled pilots. The problem is that in June 1941, with the start of Operation Barbarossa, the German invasion of the Soviet Union, the demand for new pilots kept growing and growing at a very fast pace. In the following year, the battles, still very intense around the city of Stalingrad in the south of the Soviet Union, and the disaster that befell the Luftwaffe and the entire Wehrmacht. Starting in November 1942, with the beginning of Operation Uranus, the great Soviet counterattack in the Stalingrad region, the number of casualties among the German crews was immense, and it became increasingly evident that the German Air Force was no longer that powerful force. Adding to the air disasters in the Soviet Union was the Allied bombing offensive, especially the nighttime offensive carried out by the Royal Air Force as four-engine bombers against the largest German cities. It was already becoming a huge problem, and the Luftwaffe responded to this problem by creating the Nachtjagd, or night fighters, a branch of the Air Force that fought enemy bombers. It was in this context that Kurt Welter, who had already been an Oberfeldwebel, or sergeant, since the previous year, was finally removed from his instructor duties. On August 10, 1943, he was sent to Blindflugschule 10, or Blind Flying School Number 10, in Altenburg, where he would prepare to become a night fighter pilot. The night bombings over Germany have a reason for being. It began in the Battle of Heligoland Bight, which took place on December 18, 1939, when a formation of 24 British bombers was completely wiped out. When trying to attack a German target during the day, still at the beginning of the war, from this event, the Royal Air Force decided that it would only attack Germany under the cover of night. And, starting in the summer of 1940, the British began a series of nighttime attacks on the German capital itself, Berlin. Events that ended up greatly accelerating the change in Germany's strategic direction in the Battle of Britain. And to respond to this problem, That's when this officer enters our story. Here is General Joseph Kamhuber, who at the time worked in the Luftwaffe's general staff, commanding the flak searchlights and also the German Air Force's radars. Kamhuber then analyzed the whole problem of the English raids at night over the country, and he developed a system of countermeasures to be able to shoot down these aircraft while they were still on their way to their targets. And this system of countermeasures was named the Kamhuber line. The Kamhuber line consisted of a series of boxes measuring 20 by 32 kilometers called Himmelbett, and in each of these boxes there was a Freya radar with a range of 100 kilometers. In this first operational phase of the Kamhuber line, known as Helle Nachtjagd, or night fighting guided by searchlights, a long-range Freya radar would locate the enemy bomber and then pass the location information to a short-range Würzburg radar, which was also inside the Himmelbett itself. Each of the boxes contained a night fighter flying, responsible for the sector, which was also guided by a Würzburg. The positioning of the searchlights, which then illuminated the target, was also coordinated by the Würzburg itself, and the information from both radars was combined in a control center, which then guided the fighter to its target, thus allowing interception in a completely dark environment. This first phase of night fighting was only surpassed at the beginning of 1942 with the installation of the Liechtenstein radars, these very prominent antennas, which are located at the front of the Messerschmitt 110 fighters. And that's the most common image we have of the German night fighter. In this second phase, night fighters reached a very high level of effectiveness, which really bothered many Englishmen, who then developed, in the summer of 1943, an extremely powerful countermeasure. English bombers began to release thousands of small strips of tin into the air, which, when they exploded and spread over a large area, ended up blinding the German radars. This tactic is still used today to confuse radar-guided missiles. And this type of countermeasure is popularly known as chafe, with the German night fighters completely disoriented. The week after this first English attack, it was up to Colonel Hajo Hermann to come up with an emergency response against the Royal Air Force bombers. This emergency model became known as Wildesau, or Wild Boar, which used single-engine fighters guided by radio and ground searchlights to shoot down enemy bombers at night. And it was precisely during this phase that Kurt Welter entered, engaging in combat for the first time on September 2nd, 1943. He was assigned to the 5th Staffel, or 5th Squadron of Jagdgeschwader 301, or Fighter Wing 301, which flew the Focke-Wulf 190A5 for night operations. And right on his first mission, on the night of September 22 to 23, 1943, Kurt Welter shot down 2 4-engine bombers, some British ones, over the city of Renoa. A few days later, on the night of October 3 to 4, on his third mission, he shot down 2 Handley Page Halifax bombers. And on the night of October 22, he officially became an ace by shooting down 3 bombers over the city of Sa. Fulbeyenbonbulletin A was gathered. Kurt Welter was already shooting down bombers on his first mission in an environment as complicated as this. But it's good to remember that Welter had already been a fighter instructor for 4 years. And of course, he was made a fighter instructor precisely because of his high skill in this field. So, even though he was a rookie in combat missions, Welter was a veteran pilot in fighter aviation and in several other types of aviation. On January 7, 1944, Welter's name was put forward for promotion to lieutenant. That is, second lieutenant. He received a field promotion to officer due to his high effectiveness as a fighter pilot. This promotion was confirmed on February 1st and on March 24th. With only 15 missions flown, Welter achieved a total of 17 confirmed aerial victories and was therefore awarded the German Cross in Gold on May 10th. Shortly after receiving this decoration, he was transferred to the 5th Staffel of Jagdgeschwader 300. He started flying. During the day, between July 18th and 20th, 1944, he shot down 3 P-51 Mustang fighters and 2 Boeing B-17 Flying Fortresses. But Welter's daytime phase wouldn't last long, and on July 25 he was once again transferred to the night unit, this time to the 1st Staffel of Nachtjagdgeschwader, Tenor Night Fighter Wing number 10. And exactly 1 month later, on August 25, he shot down his first de Havilland Mosquito, the famous Wooden Wonder. This super-fast twin-engine aircraft from Handley Page Aircraft Company, which fought as a British night raider, became the hunter of the German night fighters. On September 4, Welter is transferred to the 10th Staffel of Jagdgeschwader 300, a unit specialized in shooting down British mosquito raiders flying at night. The Messerschmitt 109 G6 Welter was very successful in this mission, and in the month of September shot down no less than 7 mosquitoes. One of them was by ramming, that is, by directly crashing his fighter into the enemies. And because of these results, on October 18th, with only 40 missions flown and 33 kills to his record, Kurt Welter was awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. On November 2nd, once again flying the Focke-Wulf 190 at night, and already an expert in hunting the British de Havilland Mosquito, Kurt Welter was transferred once again, this time to the 2nd group of Nachtjagdgeschwader, 11 or Night Fighter Wing, number 11. And just a few days after this last transfer, he receives a new assignment. He would be the commander of an experimental unit that would be called Sonderkommando Welter, and this unit would test in combat none other than the Jagdgeschwader, the Messerschmitt 262, an air superiority fighter that was now being tested for night fighting. This unit, then, was supposed to protect the German capital, Berlin, from the British de Havilland Mosquito raiders, using the fastest interceptor aircraft in the world. At the time, on the first day of December that year, Kurt Welter was promoted to Oberleutnant, or First Lieutenant, and 12 days after that, on December 12th, he would shoot down his first victim at the controls of a jet at night, precisely a de Havilland Mosquito. The initial tactics for using the Messerschmitt 262 at night were essentially the same as those of the Wild Boar, which had already been employed with the use of the Messerschmitt 109 and Focke-Wulf 190. The jet pilot only received instructions by radio, with the targets illuminated by searchlights, and once these experimental tactics were proven and officially adopted, on January 28, 1945, the Sonderkommando Welter was officially renamed the 10th Staffel of Nachtjagdgeschwader, 11 flying out of the Magdeburg base. Welter's night jet unit had as its main enemy the Royal Air Force's 8th Group, which was precisely the one operating the Mosquitoes. And from then on, Welter began a vast series of shoot-downs of these twin-engine planes over Berlin. On 2 consecutive nights, February 21 and 22, he would shoot down 4 Mosquitoes, and having reached the mark of 48, confirmed aerial victories in a very small number of missions. On March 11, 1945, Kurt Welter was awarded the Oak Leaves to the Knight's Cross. The month of March 1945 was especially fruitful for Kurt Welter, who shot down the impressive number of 12 Mosquitoes in night combat. And on the 27th of that month, Welter made the operational debut of the new Messerschmitt 262 B-1AU jet fighter, a version finally 100% dedicated to night fighting. Equipped with nose-mounted radar and a second crew member in the back who acted as the radar operator, this new aircraft added much more effectiveness to jet night fighting tactics. Even though it arrived too late to make any significant difference in the course of the conflict, in April 1945, Welter would still shoot down 7 more Mosquitoes. His last kill, number 64, took place in the early hours of April 17th to 18th, 1945. At the beginning of May, his unit was transferred to northern Germany, in the province of Schleswig-Holstein. There, he laid down his arms to the advancing British Army and became their prisoner. He was interrogated by the Royal Air Force in the following weeks. Like the vast majority of German night fighters, Kurt Welter was released quite quickly. Still in the summer of 1945, having before that authored 2 reports on night jet fighter tactics for the British command. Returning from captivity, Kurt Welter reunited with his family and moved with them to the city of Brühl in the Rhineland, where he started working at a sugar factory. But in November of the following year, 1946, he started working in leather goods manufacturing. And in April 1948, he became the manager of a medical products factory. But on March 7, 1949, tragedy struck the life of Kurt Welter when, at a railway crossing near the city of Lech, in the province of Schleswig-Holstein, his car, which was waiting for a train to cross just in front of the tracks, was crushed by logs that fell from one of the wagons. These logs slipped off because they weren't properly tied down. Kurt Welter died instantly at the age of 33, with 64 kills to his name, most of them made at night. And aboard the Messerschmitt 262, Kurt Welter is, without a doubt, the greatest. The night fighter ace of jets in World War II, and historians still debate his numbers with other pilots for the title of greatest jet ace in World War II, and perhaps even in all of history. And once again, if you want to see the Heinkel 219 up close in person, and also many other aircraft. Now tell me, did you already know the story of Kurt Welter, perhaps the greatest jet ace in history, or any of this? Is this all new to you? Tell us here in the comments once again. If you like this video, share it with your friends, and also give us a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to War Room so you won't miss anything. I'll stop here and thank you again for watching, and here's a big hug from War Room.